All right, welcome back. I'll introduce our lead planners, or our supervisors rather, for our CVS team, Sandy Dixon and Navin Puri. I wonder if you guys might want to introduce the presenters for the next session.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Jason, can you all hear me okay?
We can, yes.
Great. This is Navin, and just real quickly, Sandy and Keon and Matt are all members of the CGI team, and Keon and I will actually be doing the presentation this afternoon. And we're ready to start if you guys are.
Take it away.
All right, Keon, go ahead.
Ready. Good afternoon. This is the criminal justice breakout for reporting. And first thing I would like to say is congratulations to everybody that received a grant this time around. The committee did a great job on trying to get everybody grants. Some people couldn't receive grants this year. However, we tried to fund everybody we could. So kudos to them and kudos to the staff that I had to do the manpower to get all the grants modifications and things out. All right, so we have Navin Puri and we have Matthew Stewart on the chat, and I'm Keon Ash. And the first slide is important notes. These are some things that we're going to be talking about. This website is very important. These websites are very important. We have GCC homepage. This is where you can find all the updates on what's going on with the Criminal Justice Improvement Committee. You can find your forms, you can find your templates, you can find everything that can push you through this grant process on the GCC homepage. You should bookmark that link. The next web link you should bookmark is the EBS link. And this link is really the heart of your grant process. You would do everything on this website. You would do your reimbursements, you would do your applications, you would do your change requests, you would do your document uploads, your profiles. So you definitely need to bookmark that web link. The next link you will see is the EBS user add and change. This is basically for new users. You got to be approved to use EBS. And for old agencies also, for people that might leave or project director, or you want somebody in the agency to be able to look at the profile, you have to use this link to be approved. You have to go through this link to be approved to use the EBS web page. And the last link you see is the federal link, the PMT reporting. This is a very, very important link. You will see this link at least 3 times in this presentation. It's very important, and we will tell you why. Next slide, Nevin. All right, again, we see the PMT reporting website. This is the federal website that you actually just go up and do your data entry and tell the feds how great your project is doing. If you want to look at a blank report, you'll go to the link that's showing in red. But the one thing I would say, once you click on the link and go to the web page, make sure you click the correct funding source. If you click the wrong funding source, you will get the wrong questions for the report. So make sure you click the correct funding source on that link. The CVI subrecipients do not report in PMT at this time. Additional information will be shared at a later time, and that's more likely will be on the web page, the homepage, GCC, Government Crimes Commission. Prior quarter PMT reports. The subrecipients are responsible for submitting reports for the entire period of performance. So the whole time, the life of the loan, you will have to submit a report. So if your report If your grant is only supposed to be 1 year and you get an extension, you would still have to report to the federal government them extra quarters. So the life of the loan, you have to do a PMT. So the faster you get it done, the less reports you have to do. And please make sure you put them in chronological order. You can't go back and do old reports before you do the new reports. So make sure you do them in chronological order, please. All right. Now, after you sign your agreement and you're happy and you get your money, you have some reports you must submit to GCC. The first report is the PMT report. Now, we just discussed what that report was. However, this report that you do in the federal site, you must download this report and submit it into EBS. Now, I'm just giving you a quick overview of this. Now we will go more in depth and show you more screenshots on this. But you would take that report and you would upload it into EBS. Then you'll have an annual progress report. This annual report is basically telling you, it's basically like a report card. It's how well have your project been doing. And you can find this template on the homepage, Governor Crime Commission homepage. You can find a template for the annual progress report. You don't have to make up your own report. We have templates on the homepage. Now, if we request a pre-award assessment, this is because you are a new subrecipient or you haven't had a grant with GCC in the last 5 years. So all this stuff can be found on the web page. All these templates can be found on the web page. However, you have to go to the PMT, the federal site, to download your actual federal report to upload it in EBS. Program performance measures for JAG programs. All right, federal statutes require PMT reports be submitted online directly to BJA in a timely manner. Once you have submitted the PMT in the BJA PMT online system, then you would download a PDF copy and save the file as. This is the way we want to see the file when it comes to GCC. PMT, fiscal year, the quarter, and then your agreement. Now, these slides will be on the homepage, on the website. So if you can't write it down real quick, you can go to the slides on the webpage. Again, it would be PMT, fiscal year, quarter, then the agreement number. This is how we would like to see your PMT uploaded in the EBS website. The PDF copy must be uploaded quarterly in the EBS as an activity with the file name referring to the reporting period. Your grants manager will review and report, either approve it or return it for further actions. Then the planners would take all these reports that you submit in EBS and then submit it again to the federal government. So they can keep track and see, okay, if something different, then we're gonna probably get audited. Failure to complete by deadlines may result in immediate hold of grant funds and may endanger the state entire allocation. If the state report is not submitted in time, OJP can put a hold on the state allocation. That's everybody's money. If we don't get the report in, everybody's money can freeze up. All right, again, you see the BJA PMT website, very important. All right, here are some terms that that you should remember when you're doing your report. And just remember, the grantee will be the state of North Carolina. It's not your agency, it's the state. A lot of people will say, okay, we're the grantee because we got the money. But no, the grantee is considered the state of North Carolina. The grantor is considered Governor's Crime Commission. The grant is considered, on the report, is considered the money we receive from the federal government. Now, The subrecipient is everybody that has a grant. You are the subrecipient. The subaward is the money you receive or the grant that you receive from the Governor's Crime Commission. A lot of times people get confused with this on the report and they get error messages. So the subrecipient is everybody that has a grant. The subaward is the money that you receive from the Governor's Crime Commission. Then the project description is just like on the application. It's a short description of the project that the application represents and the purpose of the request funds. The reporting period is the time that you have the grant. If it's from 10/1 to 9/30, that's the reporting period. That's the time you have it. Navin will go through and be more in depth with what I just said, but he will definitely echo everything I just said with more screenshots and things like that in the next couple of slides. So don't worry if I went fast. Don't worry about it. Navin's going to go slow enough so everybody can see the screenshots and understand what's really going on.
All right, good afternoon again. This is Navin, and thank you, Keon, for that. So there will be basically two sets in the audience today that we're talking to. There's going to be a group of you guys who have been doing this for a long time, and then there'll be a group that's probably new. So first, if you've been doing this a long time, more than likely you already have a profile and everything in the PMT system. And also, I'd like to thank my cohorts who came before me, and Lindsay, Jordan, Grace, Adonica, and everybody who was talking, because some of this looks the same, because the platform that is on the BJ side is the very similar platform for the OVW side. So a lot of these screenshots will look very much the same. If you already have a login and password, you've probably been established in the system or you had it. So you would see this as your entry screen that you would get to. And that would then allow you to go to the BJ PMT link, which is, different than the OVW link, which is used for the VOCA reporting. However, if you're new, and there will be many of you in the audience that are new today, whether it's out of JAG, SCIP, or other funding streams, you'll end up, what will happen is as we get your projects set up, we will set them up into the system. The system will then send you an email. What this email will do, it's similar to what's on the left side of this screen here. It'll give you a link. The link will then ask you, because remember, we're setting these to the project director that's listed in EBS. That's our primary contact point to begin this process. So the project director will receive an email from the OMP system, essentially is what they're called in DC. And it'll give you a link. You go into the link, you set up your profile, some security questions, you get that updated. Once you get that updated, then you should be able to see the project that's been assigned under you in your queue on the PMT side. So again, if you're new, you'll probably see something similar to this. If you're an established user, you may or may not get something like this because it may automatically fall into your queue. Once you do, you would basically end up going to the subgrantee organization, echoing what Keon had said a minute ago. Everybody in the audience is a subgrantee in this particular scenario with the terminology. This would then take you to an information page. The biggest thing to remember about this system is they don't want you to use the back arrows. They want you to use the tabs to navigate through it. And they want to make sure there's a timer on this thing. So if you don't touch it for 30 minutes or so, it very well will log you back out. So keep in mind that some of these things, when you're doing reports, sometimes they can take longer than 30 minutes. So do keep that in mind as you're going through this process. Is if there's no activity, no typing in there, no movement on it, it'll probably log you out after a 30-minute window because there's an automatic timer inside the system. When you're able to pull up your project, it will look similar to this, not exactly like this, but this is what you would see that would be under your queue, as I call it, or your list of things on your side of PMT. The subaward number will more likely be the agreement number that we now have, which is that long number, the 2000 number with many digits. That'll be what we name these under. You'll see your start and end date. You'll see the amount. You'll see the reporting periods that you'll need to be, working through. And then, of course, anything that's a red box, that will be, That's the indicator you need to go in and do that particular report. Anything that says begin reporting period, that's where you would go to start this process. And then, as has been said already by the presentations prior, we only have so much control over the system, so that's why the help desk number for the technical assistance is on there. And sometimes you may have to use that to get some assistance if there's some technical glitch that's causing you a problem getting into the system. Okay. Again, these are the statuses that that will be seen as far as the reports are concerned. They're either not started, they're in progress, or they're complete. You have to make sure that for any of these to count for us to be able to use to submit back into the state report, they all have to be complete. And the other two statuses won't help because we won't be able to retrieve that or use that as part of the reporting process. The basic first question that you will get asked in the general information page when you start the report is, was there activity during this period? That's the first question that's asked every single time in every single quarter of this process. It's a yes/no question. Obviously, if it's no, it may ask you a couple of follow-ups on like the reasons why. If it's yes, it'll start creating a series of questions that will basically help capture the information for your project. Remember, the biggest thing here is just to remember to use save and continue as much as you can to keep saving what you're typing in so you don't lose what you've already punched into the system. There are different tabs here that allow you to move between different modules. Most of this is already preset by the system. There's also the plus signs, which allow you to expand certain tabs and allow you to see more questions. Again, based on your response of yes or no will then depend on what the next question or series of questions are going to be or look like. When you say, did you expend any JAG funds during this period, and you click yes, it'll then open up another set of series of questions or data points, and it'll start asking you specifics about that. Sometimes it'll be asking you like specific things, did you purchase with it, or how much did you purchase? And it'll be a series of lists similar to what's on the screen, or sometimes a series of text boxes that you would have to put in information to. It will also ask you about goals and objectives. So what we would suggest is that you literally mirror the goals and objectives that you put into your EBS application when you apply for these funds. Because that'd be the easiest way to keep everything in sync and lined up with what your actual application indicated you were going to do and what you're working toward. Keep in mind this is a quarterly report, so every 3 months you have to go through this process. Twice during that period of time, it'll have the goals and objectives page will be expanded where there's actually more things asked of that. And then the other 2 times it's not. It's simply their way of capturing data. So you report every 3 months, but every 6, but at the halfway point, the 6-month window, you're basically encapsulating things from the previous quarter. So it's almost like a 6-month period of time you're reporting on. And those are the ones that have a longer explanation and more boxes in the goals and objectives, because this is actually where the narrative part comes in. A lot of this is like a data entry, it's punching in numbers. This is the part that helps us a lot, and I'll tell you why. The narratives to me, and as someone who has to kind of figure out how these state reports look and what's reported out, are the more important parts for us, because this tells us the story of what you're doing and what you're accomplishing and how you're doing it. This is the more important part from where I sit, because if we're ever asked to tell somebody in DC what's going on, or somebody at our General Assembly what's going on, this is the stuff that's important. Give me your story of what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve. The raw numbers and things don't always tell us a good story. So I do want you to pay particular attention to these sections where there's narrative boxes, and do explain in as much detail as you can what it is you're trying to do and how you're trying to get there. You have the option to add other goals if need be. Again, I would just line up what you have in your current application. To me, that's the easiest way to keep this all very consistent. When you get to the end, you'll get to a review tab. What this tab does is basically it's the summary of everything you've now put into the PMT report. Some of this is going to be little boxes for data, some of this is going to be numbers, and some of this is going to be narrative. The system at least does have a feature where it will tell you what the number of things not answered. So in this example, you see it says not answered 47. That doesn't necessarily mean 47 questions individually. That's like 47 data points it's looking for. So it'll tell you where to go. Like as you roll down on the screen, it'll show you the red links of things that need you to go back and check. So you would click on those and start going back through those pages. As you start filling those things out, this number will start to drop. Like I said, it's not exactly 47 individual questions. It's like data points. So some things are like in a chart. And often if it's just one thing you bought, you would account for that one thing. And then the other things you just put a 0 down. And so that's what that means. So don't freak out because sometimes people will see 63 or some large number and it freaks them out. And it's a data point thing. It's not necessarily an individual question. This review page also allows you to print this report, and more specifically in your case, PDF the report, because that's what we're going to ask you to do to capture back in EBS. Most important thing that has taken 15 to 20 years for a lot of people to figure out, when you get to the end of your review page, click the Mark Data Entry as Complete checkbox that you see here. If you do not, we will never know it's been done. We will never know it's complete. We won't know you did any work on it. This is the feature that helps lock the report up. It ensures that the report is now complete. And then when we're checking it on our side, we can now see complete for your report. So without that, all your data may be in there, everything may have been written, we will never know. It's just, this is like the lockbox feature to make sure it's captured and everything works out. So please make sure you do that. And then once you do that, it'll basically put your name or the project director name, whoever's working on this at that time, to say, you know, they completed this on this date. You know, it's now done. So now you know your report's complete. So now when you go back to where your project is and the listing of reports, what was previously red in here should now be this light blue color, and more importantly, it should say complete. Now you know it's no longer saying, you know, begin reporting period. It's now complete. So at this point, this is where you can go back and then, you know, you want to make sure you save this, of course. You want to label it the way that, you know, we've already stated on some previous slides. And then you need to upload it to EBS as an activity. And again, as Keon explained a little while ago, this is sort of the nomenclature we're trying to get everyone to try to put for the reporting for their actual individual reports this time. This will help staff, you know, be able to look and see which reports have been accounted for and which ones may still be missing. And it'll help you upload them, because also going back to what Keon said about the sequential order, this helps you get it in the right order of getting the reports submitted. This is not the PMT site. This is back to the EBS site, which everyone should be familiar with because that's how you did your application. On the PMT site, you're going to look for the tab that talks about progress and performance. And as you can see on the dropdown, you have lots of choices of things you can, you know, pick for this. We would need you to pick PMT or the Performance Measure Report tab, or click the link here. And this is where you would then upload your document, hopefully labeled in the way, you know, we've requested it, and submit it through. This will then let the grant administrators know that you've submitted this report, and it'll allow them a chance to go back and review it and to check off to make sure that they've accounted that you've done your report. There's always, you know, there could be errors, and times you may get error messages and things that are not operational. Some of the things we can certainly help you with or advise on. Some things, like I said earlier, are just not ours because this is not our system. This is, you know, a Washington, D.C. based system out of BJA. So we will certainly do our best to help you with any questions that may arise, but this is, you know, some things we may need the technical desk in DC to help with. One nice little feature that is just something they've kept in here for many years. A lot of the questions as you're going through them, it'll help you like get more detail if you kind of hover over it to get a little bubble. And it may help explain what they're asking for in particular. And so it's just a little feature that may be of some use to everyone out there. Again, the PMT website. And let me do a quick mention about specific performance measures. Not everyone here is, receiving money out of a single pot of money. So there's multiple funds we deal with on our side that run the gamut. So those performance measures that Keon referred to in an earlier slide, it's to help you kind of see what those questions are. So our advice is certainly take a look at that before you actually start doing your actual PMT report, because it'll give you the guidance of the types of questions and the things that they're asking for from the data collection side. If you're a CVI recipient, we would still ask you to use this tool because this would still allow you to see what is being asked of the CVI grantees. And of course, we would still be working with DC on how to get those in. And I'm sure as staff, we'd have to work with some of those projects individually. But this is just a tool to help you kind of see what they're asking for from the BJ standpoint of what they're trying to find or what they're looking for. So that's that. Again, the whole key in this is everything needs to say complete because that's the only way we are able to do it. And the important thing here is, we've talked about why this is important, and it's already been emphasized in the other two sessions prior to this one. But the date, because we have just the large number of grants that we have, we ask that you, with our BJ projects at least, try to submit everything you can by the 10th of the month at the end of that quarter. So if the quarter ends in September, we really, really ask that you try to get everything in by October 10th. There's a reason for that. I know that some of you have called multiple times and said, well, it says October 30th in the PMT system, and that's true. It does say that. But that's really our hard date. I'm sorry, jump down here. That's our hard deadline, if you will. We have to have all these done on the subrecipient side before we can even start doing our report. There are at times hundreds of these subrecipients floating out there that we have to account for in those quarterly reports. It is imperative we try to get that done in a timely manner. And unfortunately, we can't even start our report until you guys have them all complete. So if there's 150 out there, all 150 have to be done before I can go in, or Keon can go in, or Sandy can go in and do the state report. So that's why we have emphasized this the entire time we've had PMT. This has been kind of the schedule we've asked to work under, with you guys as sub-grantees. So please keep that in mind. It's only getting more important, as time goes on, just because, as you know, things are a little squirrely in DC. So, we don't want this thing to hold, and then basically it won't just be a potential, problem for just the JAG fund or whatever. It could actually be a problem for all of the federal funds we have. So keep that in mind, please. And here are the members of the team. I neglected to mention MK, and I apologize about that in the beginning, but here are the team. And again, a lot of this was done quickly. I understand that. I mean, I know in 30 minutes, it's hard to get a whole lot of information about a lot of stuff. However, we know from just experience that most of this will be done more on a one-on-one basis as you're doing these reports. So again, this will be something I think you can print this or get this downloaded, and you'll have it for availability. So again, I just want to take a minute to thank everyone for sticking with us this afternoon. We hope some of this is of some use to you, and I want to thank everyone for helping with this. And Jason, I will give it back to you to help direct traffic now.